Well, hello everyone and welcome to today's show. What we have here is a 2002 Honda Foreman Electro Shift 4x4. And you know what? It's got over 700 hours on it, and I don't know how many miles, probably 1,200, 1,300 miles on it. I just don't know why I can't have nice things that last a long time. But a shout out to the people in Ohio, I believe is where this one was made. We started leaking, started smelling like an old car, find out it's leaking through the overflow. That usually means that needle valve is messed up on the float. I'll show you all about the carburetor when we get in there. I'll tear it down, save us a little bit of time with the tear down, just show you the carb. And then, like I say, when that goes bad, if there's a problem with the overflow and it doesn't spill out all over the frame and the floor and whatever, it will eventually fill up the engine with gasoline if it leaks. Now, as long as it's just a slow drip, not a big deal, but I haven't been on this much this year because of a car wreck that I was in, and I'm not in great shape. So I only used it once to spray the fence rows with. The carburetor had stuck at that point in time. I took it apart, cleaned her out, got the float free, put her back in there, and that was all I ran it. Next time, a couple months later, I'm starting to smell that gasoline, and I don't know if I got that overflow bent out of shape where it wasn't flowing correctly. I know I checked it. Maybe I just forgot to knock it down toward the bottom, but if it leaks, it's going to fill up your engine, and you have to change the oil and all that kind of good jazz. All right, we'll see you in a little bit. Oh, one last thing I want to show you coming up pretty soon. You know, I don't know if the mic picks that up. We're back to squeaking again. I've done a little temporary video on these things before. You can kind of silicone spray them, get them to last during deer season or whatever, but they're going to go back to squeaking. Got a new set of shocks coming on, but that's going to be a separate video. This one will be long enough. Now there you can see the little one-way valve from the overflow comes right down there toward the bottom of the frame. So there's a problem. The overflow is leaking out the bottom. If it doesn't leak out, it goes into the engine, and if it does leak out, it stinks up the place, the garage, the woods, wherever I'm at. The valve is not shutting off. A few moments later. All right, now I've got the carburetor off, I've cleaned it up, I've got it disassembled, and we'll look at it right here. Now I want you to notice this. Right here is where the needle valve goes for the float. It goes in this spot right here. Obviously we've got our float goes between the two posts here. Now this post is longer than this one, and the way you would drive this out, you would take with the post and the pin in it, you would take the carburetor, set it aside, catch just the edge of that piece right there, that post, and then using a spring punch it on this side, and that pushes the needle through the other side. Now let me bring us something, go look at one of these first pictures. Now this is the Honda part, obviously genuine parts. This little silly thing is $30 for a little needle valve. Now what happens normally over time, see how this is still new. This isn't that old. This is 2018 when this was purchased. If I read the date on the oil filter from the last time it filled the crankcase full of gasoline, I had to drain all the oil out, change the oil filter, that sort of thing. But look right here. A lot of times what will happen, this Viton is probably what this black material is, because Viton can handle solvents and chemicals, and handles gasoline, but this would be nice and straight here on a new one, but it can dimple in a little bit with age as it's, you know, ages out, and it just gets where it doesn't seal good. So here is the new one. Here is the one that was replaced in 2018. This is what I say is the problem this time, the reason it was leaking gasoline. See, it doesn't have the little spring pin that goes right here. If you can see that spot right there, maybe I can zoom in on it just a little bit and move this over a little bit. See this little pin right there? because this needle on the float, which I'll show you a picture of, has no adjustments whatsoever. You got to have a little bit of flexibility, else if it's solid like this, it just rams that needle part, that head, the valve portion, into that seat over and over every time the gasoline, you hit a bump or something like that, and it jostles back and forth. There's no cushion to it. So this pin has been lost inside of this. It's bad now, it's stuck. This one isn't a new one. It still has its little shape to it. Let's look at the next picture of the seat itself. It's a little bit blurry, sorry, it's just what my camera will do through a magnifying glass to show it. But there's the seat. You see it's nice and shiny. There's no gunk or anything built up in it, so that's not the case of causing me the trouble. And here's a little bit better picture of the pin. Got a little bit of corrosion down the side of it. Don't know exactly why that is. It may be some wax, maybe. I don't remember ever putting any seafoam in there, but that might have something to do with it. But you see, there you get a good view of that little post that's on there. All right, well, here is the float. Now you see, none of this is adjustable. This is not a metal one by any means, and so the float is just what the float is. There's no adjustment to it. If we go back and look at the seat, you see how shiny that is. Anyway, so that's it. We'll get back to it. Well, now that I've got both the throttle, I've got to put that cover on there, and I've got the choke down in the piece there, as you just saw. Now it goes, the clamps, let me move that carburetor out of the way. See, the clamps have a little notch right there, and it's got a little part on that clamp itself. This is done the same way. It fits on the back side of the carburetor. Now you have to push it through the air box, but even the air box has a little rubber notch on it. See that right there? And it goes down in the front part of that box so that you know you have the carburetor set at the right angle. Now I get it to focus. This is the little heater that heats the bowl. See it right under there. You can't take the carburetor out without taking this loose. At least I can't do it. You could probably adjust it a little bit or clean it, but you can't really take it out to do a good job with it. So you undo this. This is harnessed down on the side, and then when you get that off, then of course you can unscrew it from the bowl right there. Hey, appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, if you will, subscribe to the channel, either the YouTube or the Rumble channel, which this appears in. And if you can, check the notification bell or settings to make sure that you get notified when new videos are posted. Appreciate it. Now I want to talk just real briefly, because I didn't show you. I was going to do it, but it's Saturday. We've got the year end of regular season on college football today. We had the Iron Bowl. We had Vandy versus Tennessee. We have Texas and Texas A&M playing. A lot of stuff going on today, and so I just want to get this fixed. Now, this is a spring punch, what I was calling a spring punch, okay? If you're not familiar with these, you can get them anywhere, but you push down on it, and with a little impulse, it pops real quick, versus taking a hammer and trying to drive that pin out, the float pin out. Now, the float pin on motorcycles, most I'm familiar with, 'cause I'm not a motorcycle mechanic, I'm just an old country boy. They're driven in where they stay. Now, a lot of lawnmower type carburetors, they're loose and they can travel back and forth without much trouble. But with the motorcycles and this Honda here, you have to drive it out. Now mine has a long post side, and that's the one that has the little knurls on it that you have that catches. The other side is loose, so you have to lift that carburetor up, put it on something very solid so that you're driving it out without capturing a pin. Take your little punch, push down, and with a little pucker factor, pray that you don't break that carburetor, because it's going to pop down, try to knock that pin out. Now, a carburetor, last I checked for a similar type machine, a new carburetor was $600 plus, and that was been 10 years ago. Now, you can buy a Moose carburetor. I'm sure it's a Chinese carburetor, or I think, is it Moose, or maybe it's Dennis Kirk. But anyway, the motorcycle shop does have an aftermarket carburetor for $100. And I felt them in my hand versus what the real one feels like. It feels light and cheap, but if it works, it works. I don't know if it's going to work a year and give me trouble. I mean, this is 22 years old, and I think it's okay. Now, what did it cost to fix this on this particular go-around of it leaking gas into the engine? We had 3 quarts of oil, because we had gas in the oil, need to change it out anyway. Last time it had been worked on was 2018, according to the number I had scratched into oil filter. So the oil filter, $6 plus 3 quarts of oil. That was to clean that up. I did get a gasket kit for the bowl. Didn't really need it, but I thought, why not? It's $20, $30 for that overpriced pin. You can find them online for, used to be able to get them for $5, $6. Now, the place I would have gone to is a carburetor rebuild place, out of stock, didn't have them. Another place had something that said it would work, $14, but I wanted to get it fixed today because of, you know, football today. We got stuff to do. So I got $100 just getting the gas from dripping in the garage. Now I add these shocks right here, and they're going to be another $300 by the time I get them in here. So $400 worth of repair in 22 years. I've had to do some other fixing, but would you have fixed your machine if it was 22 years old? I priced some new ones. They look really nice, but I don't really feel that I'll get $10,000, $12,000 worth of use out of a four-wheeler, so I just fixed what I got. Better to reduce, reuse, recycle, or repurpose what you have. Save that environment a little bit. So let's close this out. Well, we got it put back together. You can see the seats on. We got a little gas in it. It's 58 degrees, it says, in the garage, and it's 41 outside. Let's see if this old girl will start. Let's check and look at the console. We are in neutral, and it shows that we've got 762 hours and then 1688 miles. See if it'll start. Now I may have to put the choke on, I don't know. Well, that's it. Started okay to me.